because of whatever reason.
And I was mentioning that when we built our home, I saved a lot of old light fixtures, had some rewired and installed, and I loved them, and then they kept getting very hot and like almost melting, and I was worried about fire, so I've had some of them replaced. Mm-hmm. So it's not always practical.
But even if the fixtures per se were not incorporated, certainly the little fleur-de-lis ornamentation could be used somehow, or we talked about inverting them and having like a drop light inside, and just that be the decorative outer casing. With the shields, the escutcheon decoration in the middle, that's not just a cross brace, but there's also a vertical brace that goes to the ridgepole of the roof as well. So they're doing what a flying buttress would do on the outside of a more ornate Gothic structure.
And we've talked about the pews at our Civic Center meetings, and although they're not totally really attractive like old ones would be.
And I noticed upstairs in the balcony there was a water-damaged pew. The cap was off the top, and you can see it has like a fiberboard core. So they're nothing to write home about in terms of high quality, but they have nice clean lines, and they would certainly be serviceable for some uses, I would think.
And there might be some area in our Civic Center that these would be usable, and we will save a number of them with the intent of that, but it might not work out or be practical.
Well, and certainly we'll try to save all the little brass nameplates like David and Bateman and all these other people that the pews are memorials to. I could see where you'd have a wall of remembrance where maybe the outside bronze plaques surrounded by these in a decorative.
Yes, we definitely have talked about the plaques. There's some major ones on the outside, and
there are, like, even on the sills under the windows, there's a plaque, an engraved plate to the first president, the first graduating class president, 1880, whatever his name was. Can't remember now.
Don't remember. Well, these are certainly pieces that we don't want to just toss away.
And there are plates, engraved plates that are dedicated to the Parsons family, for which the college was named, and just a lot of little tidbits here that won't be hard to salvage. It'll take a couple hours to do it, but a few people with screwdrivers could make short work of it. So I imagine you'll be looking for volunteers at some point.
Yes, I'm sure we will. And for storage also. That's a major concern, because it will be a little while before we get started.
And inventory. It's always good to have things inventoried, so people that are good at organizing and keeping books.
That's one that I don't think we thought of.
Well, I usually don't think of those things, but I'm married to somebody that does, so some of it's rubbing off.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. And the windows, we do like some of the windows, and we talked about, well, what about the religious content, and lots of times that doesn't matter. They're beautiful pieces of art, but that will be determined, and how many we have, and that'll be a hard one for Kelsey.
Well, it's always difficult when you're trying to reuse something, especially if it has religious iconography in it. But it's a sensitive issue, but it's something we'll approach and do respectfully, of course.
And religious or not, it's still a part of the community history, and I just think from that standpoint, I mean, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City has religious art up the wazoo, but it's not a religious organization, and it's supported by city money, I think. There certainly are city museums throughout the country and the world that have religious art as historic artifacts or beautiful works of art. So I think we're just at a point in our history right now where we're a little obsessive compulsive about all this separation stuff, and it's like, give me a break.
Yeah. I think so. I agree too. For me, it's the art in the glass that's important, and saving that.
If we're expected to just turn off offensive television or avoid offensive movies, then people who are offended by this sort of thing can just not look at it. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Right. What are some other features that we've talked about?
Well, one of the things that we were talking about, not only recreating the side aisles and the the arcade and the rhythm of the columns and the arches, was to recreate some of the molding work around or around the windows that we end up reusing, or maybe elsewhere, some recognizable elements that would remind people of the Barhydt Chapel. And I think that some of the molding elements are really good, along with the fixtures and the shields, and possibly in theater, depending on design issues and such, reusing some of the pews. And but that depends on what we really want to do, you know.
Right.
It's just a design issue that comes down the road.
And these pews are 40 years old, and like I said, they have a fiberboard core, so I don't know how much more life they have.
Right.
So maybe a few pews, like in meeting rooms around the wall or something, might be appropriate, where they wouldn't get the heavy use that they might in a theater situation.
Right. Something
Right.
that's maybe suggestive, or just a remembrance. And that's something we've also talked about, instead of being utilitarian in the long run.
I mean, this just came to mind. It's totally off the wall, perhaps, but just knocking the ends off and keeping the plates on the pew and have this sort of a decorative repeat pattern incorporated as a wall motif.
Creative
I mean,
minds.
it's like- I mean, it sounds really stupid, but it might work. Almost anything will work if you do it right.
Oh, right.
That's good.
We did toss around the idea of the name of Barhydt Gallery. The Fairfield Art Association lost its home over 5 years ago, and we were talking about a gallery space possibly in the lobby area, and then a studio space also, and for the Concert Association, and Fact Theater, and the many artists and musicians, and it goes on, and the civic area for business, and I know I'm leaving tons out, so I shouldn't even get started on that.
Well, and, you're talking about the different kinds of activities. There have been some famous voices that have sung in this chapel, and I couldn't tell you who they were, but just in hearing old Parsons people talk, they had guest concert artists come in, and of course during the summer festivals there were people that didn't necessarily perform here, but they performed in relation to Parsons College. I'm sure Louis Armstrong never played for Homecoming in the Barhydt Chapel, but
He stayed at my parents' motel.
all right. So
know, it was here.
there you go. So the Bates Motel
Right.
hosted Louis Armstrong, but people of that stature made appearances on this campus, and kind of a Hall of Honor or a roster of honor or something would be nice in terms of the kinds of performers that
We
touch
dig
people's
out
lives.
some pictures and have them framed and somewhere, and we do have more new talent within our community and related to our community. I know Dorothy Bell's son is a wonderful oboist, I believe, that it's played in Carnegie Hall, and it would
Is
be.
he with Pittsburgh Symphony still?
I think so.
He was with the Chicago Light Opera Company or something for a while.
I mean, that wonderful talent that we could bring back to Fairfield, Debbie Raymond, opera singer, wonderful people we can showcase when we have a civic center. So it's exciting, and it's going to happen.
How many organizations did you say? Was it 80 organizations that could
80
utilize
existing already Fairfield organizations that
Concert-
we've
Concert
identified.
Association, Art Association, the dance class, the dance
yeah.
school. I mean, you go on and on. So
And Kelsey worked with us on a programming and interviewing these groups and people to find out what we need and how to do it. And
That was a pretty interesting process. We ended up with multiple groups that all had their ideas about how, basically, what their wish list of a building like this would be. Multiple theater groups, and when you get into different types of theater, you get into different sizes of audiences, different types of stages. It was an interesting process, and to build something that is flexible enough to accommodate for everyone, that'll be interesting and fun.